All right.
Does it look a little... Do we look a little, like,
Tilty?
tilty? Or is it just me?
The bubble looks right there. Hold on. Now that I'm looking for a freaking bubble, so if we both lean this way, it'll look right. Welcome back to another all-important episode of Reblogatog. It is our attempt to bring you that information which you need to fulfill your lives. As we digest what is given to us by the great one, Mark Rosewater, on his Tumblr account.
We regurgitate it for you.
Yeah. Blogatog becomes Reblogatog, and we bring it to your listening and viewing pleasure, I guess. Anyway, this week there is a lot of talk about Zendikar Rising because, hey, it's almost here.
It's almost here.
So a lot of this stuff is going to reference it, and we're going to get on a couple of tracks that's going to go deep.
Yeah, about half the episode's one thing, I think.
So I try to tie them together, but there's some odds and ends in here.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
There's always odds and ends.
And if we go over something we've done before, we might have a new listener. So, you know. All right, so we're going to start off with, I'm disappointed that the dual land cycle from Battle for Zendikar still hasn't been completed. Can we expect the enemy ones within the next year? Short answer is no. We do try to complete dual land cycles where we can, but we also don't want to miss cool new opportunities like the MDFC dual lands. We'll be getting to those.
Yeah, not dual lands.
I would not expect the Battle for Zendikar cycle necessarily to be finished within a year. MDFC, I don't know that I've got one talking about it, but that's Modal Double Face Card.
Yep.
Coming to end Zendikar. You want to take that one?
Mark, is there some reason the Zendikar cards care about 8 or more cards in the graveyard? It would have been nice for it to be 7 or more, so that they agreed with Threshold and reduced a bit of mental baggage in Eternal formats. I raised that exact issue, but it turns out the differential between 7 and 8 mattered for play design reasons, so it stayed 8. I assumed there had to be something. And a follow-up to this, if it had ended up being 7 or more cards in a graveyard, would you guys have brought back Threshold? And here, Threshold is your graveyard.
Whereas all these abilities are looking at your opponent's graveyard, Threshold just looks at yours.
Right.
So that being the difference.
I'll go ahead and take this next one, too.
Sure.
Aren't you concerned that Zendikar, a D&D inspired set, is being released relatively close to the actual D&D set? I am not, he says. While there is a little flavor overlap, the two play very differently.
So here's where I'm going to go into I don't think it's that much weeds. We were thinking that Party was so flavorful that it had to be in another set. I'm not saying it's not, but I am going to call that Level Up is coming back.
Yep, I agree with you.
I'm going to call it's too flavorful not to put in there.
It is such a D&D, yeah.
Level Up's got it. I mean, doesn't it?
Also, we're going to see a major return of Treasure.
Treasure?
Treasure's going to make a major... We get a card here every set or so that does Treasure, but I think we go into a D&D set, I think Treasure will be a major thing.
Level Up and Treasure seem like they belong.
Yep.
They really, really do. All right, so aren't the pathway lands, you guys know what those are, right? Because you're up to snuff, right?
Those are our modal double face land on each side.
Yeah, the record lands.
Yeah.
If you want to. A side, B side for the old timers that know what records are. Aren't the pathway lands a bit too strictly better than basic? Has that policy been walked back? Because they've said in the past they didn't want to make a land that was strictly better than a basic land.
Right.
They are not strictly better. No. They are closer to the line than we've done in the past. And that's true. They're not strictly better because
they don't have types.
Most cards that let you look for land let you look for a basic land type.
Or they let you look for either a basic land or a basic land type, a forest card or something. Yeah, it
doesn't let you look for a green producing land. Although they could go there.
They could.
We haven't had those. How much has the definition of strictly better changed? Because under the definition from your Making Magic article from get this, March 31st of 03, 17 years ago, this guy digs up this article. The pathway lands are strictly better, but you have said it was decided they just skirted close to, but were not quite strictly better. Since that article, I mean...
Most of Magic has happened since that article.
17 of it, 27 years. We've greatly decreased cards that punish a specific basic land type, while making plenty of ones that reward it. Enough so that we thought not having a basic land type was enough of a drawback. That said, this is an experiment. We're trying something new. If it doesn't work, we won't do it again. I will call to your reference, companion.
Yeah.
If you're just wondering, you know.
They messed up. Companion will never be back. You know.
And then another thing that goes along with this: why were the MDFC, the Modal Double,
Our pathways,
the pathways duels given a 6-4 split? Because there's only 6 in Zendikar Rising, we need other 4 in Kaldheim, and we may talk about that a little bit, but it was a call of the Zendikar Rising set design team. I think they picked ones which worked best with the themes of the set, and they didn't break neatly into a set of 5.
I believe it has something to do...
I don't like it.
Right.
I don't like it at all.
I don't think it really matters since we're getting the next 4 in the next set, but I
don't like it. It's 5 and 5.
I believe it has to do with the distribution of the party creature types, is what I
don't like it.
So, in your article, you mentioned that the team chose to leave out Druid because the party mechanic scales better with 4 members versus 5. Could you have not had Druid be one of the party members, but then just cut the scaling at 4? So you only need 4 of 5 party types to get the full effects?
I think you know the answer before we read it.
I believe so. That adds a decent amount of complication and becomes much harder to write in a way players will grasp.
It's wordy.
Yeah.
We have to make the type font so small nobody can see it.
Right.
Like an Ice Age on Ice Cauldron or something.
Right. I mean, not that really, do we need anything with reminder text as long as... Extort's pretty long, right? I mean, that's a pretty long reminder text. It's not a hard ability, but it's just too much reminder text for a card. Is every creature that has an ability to make it all of the party types in Zendikar Rising green, or are there ones in other colors?
Well, we know there are now.
There are none in white, black, blue, or red. Because there aren't any in any of the other colors. As each is absent of one of the 4 classes. There is 1 in green, and 2 of them are artifacts, correct?
I think there's 2 in green and 1 artifact.
2 in greens, 1 artifact, okay.
I believe, yeah.
And then lastly here, I know you guys design a lot looking to the future. Can you tell us if Outlaw's Merriment was designed to interact with the party mechanic? If so, why is Wizard missing? The party mechanic did not exist when it was created. It is hitting the same trope space.
That's still pretty neat.
Yeah.
They didn't even have the party mechanic when they designed Outlaws Merriment.
And it hits 3 or 4.
It hits 3 or 4. That is pretty wicked. I found that super interesting. All right. The bulk of our show tonight is going to be about the Modal Double Face Cards.
Right.
So let's dig in. Going forward, when making cards and deciding split/double-sided cards, DFCs. So split is the cards that, you got 2 cards on one side,
right.
The little cards,
Right.
Will cards that give you a permanent object be a double face card, and a card that is only a spell, sorcery, or instant still be a split card? So split cards can only be instants and sorceries.
Right.
This means MDFCs tend to have at least one side be a permanent. Technically, there could be an MDFC with 2 instants and or sorceries with text that couldn't fit on a split card. But yes, if it can be a split card and not an MDFC, it should be. So that's something that we learned about MDFCs, and that's what we're talking about right now.
Right.
For MDFC cards in zones other than the battlefield or the stack, do the cards have the properties of only the front face?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Can MDFC and TDFC, now TDFC
Is a normal...
is the transform,
Right.
what we're used to like with an Innistrad,
Yeah.
show up in the same set? What about an MDFC that transforms?
Right, what?
To avoid confusion, I'm skeptical we'd put them in the same set. Will one day we do one that is both? Probably.
Probably.
I think if it's an MDFC that transforms, it would be a TDFC. Wouldn't it?
Yeah, I would think so. But not necessarily. What if you could play it from your hand modally? You could choose either side to play it down
okay.
as.
Yeah.
But then once it was on the battlefield, there is an activation to transform.
Gotta slow roll it into giving us those things. You can't give us all the toys at one time.
I know.
So, how come regular DFCs have the mana cost of the front face, while MDFC's lands don't? Well, lands don't have costs anyway.
Right.
It's weird that they have different rulings. MDFC can have things on the back other than lands. Not in Zendikar Rising, but one day.
And the next two sets. I'm assuming.
Possibly. I think most of the player base is having a lot of problems judging the power level of MDFC. I think they are very well balanced and will see a lot of play in various formats. How much discussion was there on how strong the spell side should be versus how much power came from being able to mana fix with them? And he says a lot, like in little asterisks around it, of time was spent on it.
I
so
imagine.
they spent a lot of time trying to dial them in. I'm not a good judge of these things. I feel like, I don't think I shared it, but I felt like there should be some legendary lands on the other sides of some of these. And there is one where he says this is not a good place to play with legendary lands. But I just felt like there should be lands that do something besides just make mana on the other side.
I'm
At higher rarities anyway.
I'm worried about what these lands can lead to. If it breaks game variation too much by being able to now play 50 lands in your deck, but 20 or 30 of them are also spells.
Or being able to play 16 lands in your deck because you have 8 spell lands.
Right. It's really the variation in deck building really.
So they seem to approach this very cautiously,
Yes.
unlike they did with, say, like Affinity or Energy. So this seems super cautious.
Don't ever. It's really hard to compare anything to Affinity because
But
it's
you
hard
can
to be
compare
as broken.
Energy to it.
It's hard to be as broken as Affinity was.
So there's an article around on Mashable that quotes you saying that modal DFCs, MDFCs, are also going to be in Kaldheim and Strixhaven.
Yep.
Just want to confirm that this is accurate information. That quote is 100% accurate. Note that each set will execute on MDFCs in a way that best fits the theme of that set. So do you think our snowlands are going to be on the flip side of Kaldheim? You get a spell snowland.
Maybe. That would be interesting.
Because a lot of people don't like the snowlands because they're strictly better than a basic land.
Yeah.
There's not enough downside to them.
There's no reason not to play them.
As long as they're legal in your format.
Right.
Which they're not legal in Standard and Pauper, for example,
right.
So anyway, that
they're
might
legal
be
in
a way.
Pauper.
Huh?
Pioneer and Pioneer.
Pioneer, sorry. Pioneer.
Pauper, they play the crap out of them.
Yeah. My bads. My bads. Okay. If I have a modal DFC in play that is a human creature and play Moon Mist, transform all humans, it will still flip over to its land side, right? No.
This is good.
Transforming cards only forces cards to transform that can naturally transform. MDFCs don't transform.
Interesting. Now, maybe I have to get on Blogatog and send Mark a question here. An unrules question. If I play very cryptic command that lets me turn a permanent face down, and it's something like this, does that then make it the other side? If I flip a double face?
There are actual rules for that, but don't ask me to bring them up because we should have looked that up beforehand.
Fair enough. I'm just curious now.
If someone hadn't had you busy all day moving 500,000 cards, you would have had time to look that up.
Only 400,000.
Yeah, it's probably not even quite 400,000. Are there any double face cards in Zendikar Rising where one side isn't a land? Nope.
Zendikars are land plane, guys.
They're all lands on the second side. Do the single triangle / two triangles on the top left of MDFCs signify anything specific? With transform cards, we had Sun Moon, Moon Eldrazi, and the Planeswalker symbol for the flip walkers that all fit with what the two sides meant. Do the triangles have any meaning, or is it just a way to say side 1, side 2? You got it.
Yeah, side 1.
Side 1,
two.
side 2. I need the other piece of paper. Because we're still going on this.
Yeah.
We're getting all the intel on the MDFCs this week. If I flicker an MDFC, does it have to come back as the same face? It comes back as side 1 if it's a permanent, and stays in exile if side 1 is an instant or sorcery. So you don't want to flicker your land because it'll come back as an instant or sorcery.
Flickering doesn't work. You literally have to bounce it back to your hand and replay it.
Yes. When or when? TDFCs, triple double face cards. Don't laugh. You're probably joking, but they do exist in Duel Masters. So printing-wise, we can make them.
No.
To save people from having to ask the question, here's how they work. Imagine 3 cards that are linked together. You can fold them just to show them a card consisting of 1 card face, card number 1. Unfold them to show a card consisting of 2 card faces, card number 2. And unfold them again to show a card consisting of 3 card faces, card number 3.
No. It will not work as long as paper magic is a lot. They'd be thicker. You could not run them legally in a deck. I'd be like, that's a triple face card.
So you just use one of those filler cards and you label it. So it does work. With DFCs coming up in multiple sets, does that mean that their extra printing costs are now lower, or just that the design space is worth it? It's the latter.
Yeah.
So DFCs do have an inherent cost increase because you got
2 cards on one.
You got 2 pieces of art. You can at least understand that. They had to pay 2 artists, do 2 pieces of art for 1 card.
Right.
Plus the printing means it has to have a different back. So
Right.
they don't just slap magic backs on all of them. Excuse me. A single mechanic used across all 3 non-core standard sets makes a lot of sense. Could this be done with mechanics like Morph 2? I feel like restricting Morph to a single set makes the pool of cards needed to make the mechanic viable too small. MDFC's being across this magic year is an experiment. Now, I think it might have been in his Making Magic article where I read the rest of this, but it is an experiment. They're trying to mechanically tie a year's worth of sets together, and this is one of the ways they're attempting it, by putting MDFCs across 3 of the 4 sets. And the last thing, although we may have a couple other mentions I missed.
We'll find them if we do.
So it's confirmed that MDFCs will appear in both Kaldheim and Strixhaven. But can you confirm or deny them appearing in Innistrad, which is, a whole year away, in 2 sets in the 4th quarter? We're presumably going to see the return of Transform there, so I'm wondering if or how you'll have the 2 play together. While I can't confirm what's in the Innistrad sets yet, I can say we currently have no plans to put TDFCs and MDFCs in the same set. Now, in another question he answered that I didn't get on here, he said, in response to a similar question, we have not yet gone to Innistrad without having TDFCs.
Right.
That's neither confirming nor denying, but he's just saying that we've never been there when we didn't have them. And if we know a set is focused on werewolves, how could we not have them?
Right.
That's the werewolf mechanic.
I'm with you. You want to take a break there for a minute now?
Yeah,
you just read a lot of
I need a
stuff.
breather. I'm going to take a nap while you continue on here.
Marrow, I am concerned about the set's perception. Party seems to be a limited mechanic. Landfall and Kicker have been done before, and while I'm pretty sure modal DFCs are actually really strong, they look weak and overcosted. I'm sure the set will play great, but I'm getting the impression it'll be unpopular. Play Design had some party decks show up in the FFL, which is the Future League.
You're right.
Landfall and Kicker are returning mechanics, but they're returning because they're really popular.
Really popular.
And the MDFCs are going to see a lot of constructed play. They are better than they look. I have total faith Zendikar Rising is going to be quite popular.
Oh, I think so.
I would say he is absolutely right on that. I guess I'm just there.
Have we already done that?
Oh, wait, did we get... Wait, no. Orange, I don't think has been done. Sorry, it's lost in the middle of a lot of stuff there. I believe there is more to the story than Ally didn't fit in the type line. Do you debate if you could do Zendikar without allies? Did you try a different approach? Party and allies fill the same flavor space, and both require card type line space. There isn't more to the story. Which is...
Because there are some people upset that the parasitic mechanic of allies was not included.
Right. If you did not want to put ally on one card or just a few, why reference allies with legendary Tazri? Really, you know the answer to this. Wouldn't that just be confusing to new players, as many players will ask why there is text on a card that does nothing in limited or standard? We decided one higher rarity nod to the ally fans on a possible commander made sense.
Yeah, it's a 5-color commander.
And General Tazri is the ally commander.
A high rarity, so it's new players aren't going to see it very often.
Right.
And go, what's an ally? So
yeah, I think, like I said, I think he already knew the answer to that one, in my opinion. Yeah, just making sure I was on the right side. No.
Yep.
Zendikar Rising has a lot of equipment that auto-attach. I believe all of them.
I think so. It's a sub-thing.
When they enter the battlefield. Is that going to be the default for equipment from now on? To help compete with auras? Remove the feel bads of playing it without enough leftover mana to equip? Or just a knob R&D can tweak card by card? It's a thing for Zendikar Rising. Not a permanent change to equipment.
It looks kind of neat.
It does. I think it gives them the opportunity for some of them to be more constructed playable. If they get that one free equip, that may be enough sometimes. How were the colorless, non-artifact, non-Eldrazi, non-Ugin related creatures in Ikoria received? Is that something we're likely to see again? Probably.
I liked them.
Yeah.
I got a colorless deck, so I liked them.
If or when, functional errata instead of bannings. Given that most games are online now, also great work for Zendikar. Two things. One, in non-pandemic times, more tabletop Magic is played than online.
More tabletop in non-pandemic. It's coming back. As soon as people can meet and gather again, coming back hard.
Two, because actual cards have their original writing on them. We try to avoid functional errata where we can. Other than the companion mechanic, it's only been done a couple times ever in the history of Magic.
But I got to tell you that, I mean, you can play with cards as is and everything. There's a lot of errata out there. If you don't have Gather at your fingertips, you can go down a deep dark hole if you're not careful.
There's a lot of it that really comes into play with multiplayer stuff and things like that over the years, especially stuff that was templated in the 90s still. It has had to have been errated because Magic cards aren't written like that anymore.
So a while ago I had asked why Magic isn't able to do sci-fi, and you stated that the game is too based in fantasy. Do you hold that stance still since the launch of things like Godzilla Alt Arts, Secret Lairs, etc., where there's now many non-fantasy things sitting across players at the table? Our roots are still in fantasy, but we are willing to stretch more than we have in the past. I would say he would probably have an addendum on that, is that Magic is a hungry beast.
Yeah.
And so he likes to say never.
The only thing I know that they're pretty much no guns, but that seems to be one of their hard lines.
Yeah. Should every characteristic and iconic race eventually have its own planeswalker? Most already do. Flash forward to 2 days from now. My coworkers. Wow, the people on your blog really seem to want a Hydra planeswalker. Fingers crossed.
I bet that is Mero's life.
I want a Hydra planeswalker now. Why is summoning sickness used on cards like Ashea when it's an informal term? I don't know. I teach people how to play Magic regularly, and it makes learning the key terms of the game more difficult. Cheers. As it's used on cards, I would no longer call it informal. It's a concept that needs to be understood, so we have to refer to it somehow.
Yeah.
Summoning sickness.
It's always... Yeah. I learned about summoning sickness 27 years ago. How do people feel about enchantment removal in black? There are 3 camps. 1, like seeing abilities in colors that haven't had them before. 2, dislike seeing abilities in colors that haven't had them before. And 3, care that thought is going into color pie decisions. Group 1 is happy. Group 2 is cautiously happy. Or Group 3 is cautiously happy. Group 2 is not happy. Why is blue getting so much token production lately? Especially strange tokens. They've always got strange tokens when they make tokens. I will say that. I thought blue was the worst at tokens. All colors get to make tokens, and it's not off limit to any color. But
they're getting ready to make more, since they're going to be able to copy spells that are permanents.
Yes.
And make tokens out of that.
But I will agree that they usually are strange tokens blue makes. Mero, today is my birthday, and I was wondering if you could tell me anything about the development of my favorite set, Ikoria. If Vision Design had our way, the Black Tribe would have been Insect. The creative team was worried that they weren't cuddly enough. They wanted the smaller monsters to look more cute than creepy. Happy birthday. Huh. So they got nightmares instead.
Yeah.
All right.
Finishes off there.
All right, last one, guys. Is it possible for creatures to have Storm now? The new copying rule would allow that, I think. As of Zendikar Rising, you can copy a creature spell as it's being cast and get a creature token.
Yeah, I just mentioned that, so I thought we'd go ahead and roll it off. Take a look at some of the spoilers. There are some that let you do that.
A creature with Storm.
I don't know how it works. I didn't want to break my brain. My brain is strained today as it is. Anyway, guys, that's what we've got for you this week.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you tuning in. Hope to see y'all next time. Same bat station, same bat time.
Thanks, guys.